Jack Nicholson.
Wow.
I mean, he's great in so many things, but he was so good in this. And Shelley Duvall.
So creepy and scary.
Oh my gosh! And of course, it has the classic, things that make a horror movie a horror movie. The isolation at this hotel. They get snowed in. No one can come there to help. The child who has some sort of ability that they call the Shining. That's what the whole point. He has a thing where he can see things. He sees people. He sees dead people, type of thing.
That's a very nice way of putting all of his demonic character. You know what I mean?
Well,
It's Shining.
Well,
you know?
I mean, I think of a lot of it's
Yeah.
based on ESP.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. It's just a nice way of saying like, you're scary.
Yeah, your kid's crazy, but he's the Shining. Red Rum, obviously, comes from that movie.
Which is murder spelled backwards when it reflects in the mirror.
Yes. And as I first saw when I was younger, I didn't know that. And I was like, what is that? Red Rum. And
Spoiler.
Then, then you have a loved one who snaps, and then they're trying to get away from him the whole time. So, I mean, it is obviously a very good movie. And that Here's Johnny scene, obviously, was very famous. But there's the prep for it. I remember Jason sent me the video years ago, Jack Nicholson getting prepared for the scene. That's almost scarier than what he did in the movie.
Because he's preparing like 5 to 10 minutes this character in advance. You see him huffing and puffing like,
That
He's
is
like going
scary.
crazy.
Yeah.
And his eyebrows look crazy. I don't know.
Yes.
But I will tell you this. This is the thing, and I know Jared's going to give his screams.
Yeah, you're good.
Jack Nicholson, and there's been some critics that don't like the way he acted and don't like the way this movie was done. And they thought the Hey Johnny scene was the worst thing that could have happened to the movie because it was too comedic.
Here's Johnny. Yeah.
I think it actually added to the craziness of him.
Yes.
And,
Agreed.
and the story itself, too, if you look at the story that was written by Stephen King, it's like the story and everything aspect about it, 2 things. 1, very clever and well done. And 2, was that based on a true story? Because it could have happened, because there is a disease, believe it or not a disease or a mental issue. What happens is if you are in places that are really, really big, isolated for long periods of time, they've seen cases where people go crazy.
Yeah, it's like stir crazy. I think it's where stir crazy comes from.
It's got to be
think so,
big.
too.
And that was a big, was it a hotel that they were kind of watching over?
Well, I did read that Stephen King, when he was inspired by this book, he lived in Boulder, Colorado, and there was a hotel called the Stanley Hotel that was in the area, and he would go stay there as he was writing it. And he stayed in room 217. But then in the movie, he wrote 237, or they changed it in the movie to 237. It was like this haunted room or whatever. And he kind of got it from that idea of being in this, obviously being a writer, having writer's block and all these different things. So he kind of incorporated the things he was saying.
And also, just now talking about the Stanley Hotel, that it was inspired by true hauntings within the Stanley Hotel.
Yes.
So,
But
not
even,
true story, but
even though on top of that is a lot of people argue the reason why all these things happen, like the little kids down the hallway, which is one of the most freakiest scenes ever in a horror movie. You have like 2 twins nicely dressed down a hallway.
Riding bikes.
It's creepy. But it's the fact that the reason why when he was talking to everybody and doing everything, it was his mind. It wasn't actually ghosts. It was his mind that was creating it all. So that's why it could be based on a true story, because it's not actually hauntings.
Right. Yeah, that makes it scarier because any human being with a mind could snap.
Yeah, and that's what all the stuff that was happening. It looked like it was haunted, and it could have been, but it also could have been his mind.
Yeah, and of course, Stephen King, one of the greatest, most prolific. He is the greatest horror writer of all time, the most prolific.
and psychologically horror.
Yes, Jason.
Yes.
The trailer, if you listen to the trailer, that movie came out when, Jared, do you know?
1980.
Okay, 1980. That trailer still sounds like it could work for a current movie today.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it's done, although you could tell it's old, it never hindered that. I could watch that movie right now, and the year that it was made never hindered the way it looks to me like a Freddy Krueger does now.
Yeah, it's not dated. The only criticism I have of it, there is like when you rewatch it, there's like a 20-minute lull in the middle.
Jason's face.
Jason
There's
does
a
not like
lull
music
in the middle.
criticism.
Where is that, Jared?
He needs the exact moment.
I need timestamps.
When you watch it again, it's like, okay, it's a little slow here.
Where?
In the middle, it's like the middle of the movie. There's like, you think that in my mind, remembering seeing it many times, it's like one thing after another after another. There's
No,
like
it's
a
not.
30 minute lull that's a little. You could take 30 minutes out of the movie and it'd be even better.
I don't like that, what he just said.
We know. We can
Yeah.
tell.
At all.
But because there was a point where he was writing on the typewriter, they were trying to make a point that he was writing this
No,
book.
I got that.
We were writing this book, and finally, when the wife came up to see what he's been writing for all these weeks, it was the same line over and over and over, and
yeah.
that you just know, like, oh shoot, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the only knock I can give for The Shining. Out of 5 screams.
Okay.
4.5.
4.5.
4.5.
Okay.
You know
We're
what?
working on the
then?
half screams. We're working on the half screams.
You know what? So I see your rating system is a little inaccurate overall. Okay.
4.5
That's
screams.
okay.
I mean, it's almost a 5.
That's it. That is, yeah.
Now, and what's hard about this is that there's a lot of factors. Like if I just say it's a movie, I love it. But if I had to, if I'm finding something I didn't like about it, if you can take 30 minutes out of a movie, I have to ding you.
The horrible, stupid lull in the middle.
Yeah,
Down a
that
half
boring
hour.
lull.
lull.
It's not
Ruined
a
it.
horrible lull in the movie, and it relates to the movie.
No,
And
I'm
it's
not
not
talking about
that.
that's the beginning is when he's doing the typing and stuff. I'm talking about like there's a middle part where it's like, okay, can we get back to all the other stuff?
What part? What part are you talking about then?
Why don't you watch it again
I've
in your movie
seen
theater?
it like 15 times.
And I'm like, oh, the pacing is a little slow.
Well, you know what? The Jared, if it's not, if it's not a Popeye's fried chicken sandwich, it's a
Okay.
horrible chicken sandwich. So you know what?
No, it's not.
You know my
Pooping on
favorite
your
thing
segment.
Yeah, he's
about
done it every day, so it doesn't matter.
with Jason.
Oh, real quick,
yeah,
Katie, real
yeah,
quick.
yeah.
There was they had the greatest horror movies of all time according to Rotten Tomatoes. A top 200 list.
Oh,
He doesn't let it
Jaws
go.
was ranked 12th. So y'all get out my face.
oh, please.
I didn't say anything about that.
You said it wasn't a horror
No,
movie.
I didn't.
It's-
I say it's listed as this, but I could see it as horror. I said Beetlejuice is not, and everybody that you posted. I like Jared does these like surveys online.
Oh, of course
He's
he
like, what do
does.
you think? And all of a sudden, it's like overwhelmingly proving
Right.
you're wrong, and then he deletes it.
Do you
But
know
anyway,
where
go
else
ahead.
he does
Okay,
that?
that's a lie. I did not delete the post.
He does that in our group text message too, where he just sends all the things that back up his claims,
Yeah.
and we're like, we get it.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
You
God.
think it is?
Oh, trust
we
me,
don't.
Katie. I was going to do a whole Jada Pinkett Smith poll,
Thank
but
God
I didn't.
you didn't,
I didn't.
because I would have deleted you from my contacts. But my favorite part about this is that with Jason, like if you don't agree exactly with what he says, he's like, you just don't get it.
You don't get it.
You
right.
don't get it.
You
He
don't
doesn't.
understand.
He's smarter than that.
I've let Jared do all these movies because it's Jared's movies or whatever the hell it's called.
Right.
Nice of you.
And
He let you.
I've
He
bit
let
my
you.
tongue
Thank
many
you.
of times
Yeah.
when I think his screams are wrong.
Yeah.
And this one, I think he's a half a scream short.
Okay.
Jason takes a firm stance over half a freaking screen.
I was like a one scream.
This is an abomination to cinema.
I think the only one you agreed on, I gave Tremors 2 screams. You're like, okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes.
But yeah, so obviously it's a movie. If you haven't you haven't seen it, right?
I have not. No.
Matt, have you seen? I know you don't like horror movies.
I have
Matt.
not.
Oh, but this is iconic.
I have
Matt, you gotta see it.
the only piece of this movie I've seen is the piece that they show in the movie Twister,
Which part is that?
where they're at the outdoor drive-in movie, the movie that's showing during the Twister.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Is The Shining, and it's when he's breaking through the bathroom
Yeah.
door, the tornado rips through the screen. I'm like, that movie looks frightening. I don't want to watch that.
It is.
Yeah,
Oh,
Bert
that's
Grimes.
right. Matt doesn't
Yeah.
really like horror movies.
I don't either,
don't.
Matt. I do not like
Yeah.
scary, but this one to me, because it's like Stephen King.
Yeah.
It is so iconic that you have to. Just know it's creepy and psychological
And
and
apparently
scary,
there's a big
but
lull, so you don't have to worry about it.
Matt, I'll send you
bathroom
I'll send you
break.
the exact time of the lull. You just fast forward.
Thank you.
You could
That's when he
digitally.
can calm down.
We just learned that we won't say fast forward anymore. You can digitally skip through
Yes.
that
There
part.
you go.
Right. By the way, the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, I visited there.
Yeah.
And it was cool because some of it was inspired The Shining, and also part of Dumb and Dumber was filmed in there when they come down the stairs in their dumb tuxedos.
Oh, that's the same hotel?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Of
It's
iconic.
right outside of Estes Park, Colorado, and they have a whole thing at the bottom of movies that were either filmed there or inspired by this kind of iconic hotel in
I
Colorado.
love stuff like that.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's really cool.
Is in this movie, does he like use a bat at one point and he's chasing the family?
An axe.
It's an axe.
His axe.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen it? You don't know.
No,
I at least know
but
that.
my dad said like he was little when after he watched it with my grandpa, his dad one time, and his brother. And so after they watched it, my grandpa left and went out and came back in the house with an axe and started chasing them around the house.
I love
So
it.
They were terrified.
I
Good
love
Lord.
it.
Said he
That's
never
horrible
became more
because
scared
basically
than
it's a
alive.
guy about to kill his whole family.
Yeah, I love it.
Gosh.
Wow.
There's one
I know.
scene where Jack Nicholson's ankle gets hurt, and he's kind of dragging it behind him, and he's dragging the axe behind him, and it's just like, Ooh, and you got this young kid, this wife. There's a chef there or a cook there that's like that you are rooting for. Yeah.
And speaking of ankles, are you going to review Misery?
Yes.
Oh, please do.
Misery's excellent. And by the way,
Misery.
I do have a I'm making some audibles here. I've gone off the list already.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, Babadook.
Babadook.
Yep.
It's the highest rated horror movie of all time on Rotten Tomatoes.
Watched the trailer today. Don't think I can sleep tonight.
Watch the
I don't.
Babadook, and it's
Babadook.
Older or newer?
a newish, may last 10
Okay.
years. I think
Okay.
I think it's 2014. I could be wrong. I know it's newish.
Was foreign or based
It
off
was
a
in-
Korean?
I thought it was based on Korean thing. I'm not sure,
Okay.
but then this one was British.
Yeah.
The actors were British, but that one is tomorrow, Babadook, and I'll just say this part, probably one of the most original horror movies I've ever seen. Way different than things you've seen before.
And maybe Misery at some point.
Oh,
Maybe.
Misery's on there.
good.
Misery's definitely happening. That's what I call every day working your misery. All right, anyway.
Same.
4.5 out of 5 screams, The Shining.
This has been Jared's 31 Days of Horror Movies. For more on this movie, follow Jared on Instagram at Jared B. Pike.
Jason, you just unfollowed me on Instagram because of my review? That's not nice.
I've heard that
Come on,
followed
man.
for a while.
He only gave your Instagram 4.5 stars.
That's right.
Right.